All right, welcome back to the MVP podcast on a rainy Friday here in Wisconsin. We've got another guest from up north, from Canada. Ryan, is it Waller?
Waller, yep.
Waller, perfect. Has a background in corporate, which I'm super excited to dive into. Took his practices from his previous employment's sales roles, brought him into his real estate business. That you dropped a little hint, you run with your wife, correct?
That's right, I do.
The power couple?
Business partners. Yep.
The power couple from the north.
Yep. That's right, that's right.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you giving us the time. And I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for having me. It's nice to come on and to talk about this and hopefully give your listeners some tips and info on the real estate world, both from a sales perspective and maybe I don't know, maybe there's a tip in there from our marketing days that we could help with for the listeners.
Yeah,
so.
I'm excited because this show is directed towards people that want to get into real estate or are new, and some of them don't have the practices that you have, that experience that you can just translate into the next phase. So if you can dive into those things, I think that would be super useful.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of, I'll kind of start at the beginning and do it quickly. But so I graduated school many years ago, and I went right into the advertising world. So I was in some of the big international advertising agencies, and part of my job in those agencies was to create ads, to create slogans, to build campaigns, and create unique things for some of the brands you'd see around your house every day. And it was a good job. It was a lot of hours and pretty low pay for what we were doing, but I was also in my early 20s, and that was just what I was given. And so I really enjoyed the life. But after a little while, it was something that I realized I really liked being in the ad industry. I thought maybe, I can take this and do something else. And before I had a chance to do anything with it on my own, I was thinking about going out on my own. I was kind of poached by one of our own clients. And here in Canada, we had a couple big bookstores about 20 years ago. I think Barnes and Noble in the US was another one. And they had a couple of, I think Amazon was even one at one time. And anyway, so
it's crazy to think that Amazon was a books.
That's right. Yeah. I think they were actually a brick and mortar bookstore, weren't they?
I don't know if he had I'd have to look that one up, but I know it started with books.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. So the company,
and now they just surpassed Walmart as the biggest retailer in the world.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? I know.
Awesome.
It's I bet there's a lot of people out there that don't even know that they were a bookstore at one time, but
it's crazy.
Yeah. And so they were a major competitor for us. And so it was called Chapters in Canada. It was the biggest bookstore we have. And so I was kind of poached for them to work at their head office and develop some marketing campaigns and do their advertising for them. And that went on for a couple of years before they were bought out by their major competitor, which still exists here, called Indigo. So as part of that, I didn't really like the transition. I left the company, and I had a few other marketing roles from there with Metro, which is an international grocery store, but in Canada, it's the Metro Inc. And with Kimberly-Clark. And Kimberly-Clark, most people know as a big blue chip. They make Huggies and Kleenex and that sort of thing. And it was in that role that I transitioned from marketing to sales. So they hired me on to do their marketing and to figure out how to grow their brands. In fact, one of their biggest plants is in Wisconsin, I think it's Appleton.
Yep, my mother-in-law does not the research, but she does when they ask questions and she gives feedback, she does that type of stuff for them.
Like focus groups and that sort of thing. Yeah. So I have been there. I've been to their Wisconsin office, and they're a huge company and a wonderful company. I really enjoyed working there. And it was there that I was helping them with their marketing, and they were trying to expand. They knew there was an opportunity for them. They didn't really understand what marketing was. I mean, this is 15 years ago, and they were still trying to figure out how to make it work. And so it was there that I learned a lot of things about marketing, developing unique selling propositions, and making sure that you understand what your strengths and benefits are so that you can stand out in the market versus your competitors. And that alone, that element of unique selling proposition is what was really helpful for me once I got into real estate, because unique selling propositions really make all the difference. When you're in a sea of real estate agents, you need to stand out. So it was there that I took the unique selling proposition and sort of applied it to what I did. And shortly after, I went to Nestle, where I was in a sales role. And I managed a team that managed the largest retailer in the country called Loblaws, and they're the largest grocer in the country. We sold our Nestle products to them, and it was constantly about how our products should have more shelf space in the grocery stores than our competitors would have. And at the time, I managed the Perrier and San Pellegrino portfolio. So it was sparkling water. How does Perrier get more shelf space than, I don't even know, Bubbly or another brand out there, or some Dasani or something else? And it was trying to figure out how we get that shelf space. So we was always a selling story about telling a story. How does our product perform versus your product? Why is our product better than your product? Why should you use ours? What are the benefits of ours? And it's all of those sorts of skills that once you start figuring them out and mastering them, that you can then apply, and people start to work with you because they believe that what you're telling them, hopefully, is true. And it separates you from your competitors. And in 2017, I just really had enough of the corporate world. In the background, we had a bunch of rental properties, and I just didn't like sort of the direction the company was taking. And so I just resigned. And I took my corporate bonus that year and got into real estate. It was a bit of a risk because my wife was staying home with my kids, or our kids. And we were just one income family. So we went from a salary, a cushy job with a company car and all these benefits. And we went to just me being a commissioned salesperson. And
not scary at all.
Yeah, not at all, not at all. And so we live in a market that's just outside Toronto. It's called Guelph. It's 140,000 people. There are 700 realtors in our market. And so it was, and both my wife and I, Beth, grew up in this town. So we had a lot of connections locally. So of course that was very helpful as well. And that was it. Like we just launched from there, and yeah, off we went.
Leap of faith.
It was a leap of faith for sure. It was a calculated risk. I figured, we did the math on it early on, and I figured, okay, if I could do 6 sales in this market, we can float along. We can float along until it gets better. If I can do 6 sales in a year, we can float along, because our average price point, of course, as we spoke about earlier, is much higher. So it's a little bit easier to keep things going here when you're selling average price homes that are $700,000 or $800,000. So we ended up, the goal was to get to 6 in the first year, and I ended up with 12. And then, so, okay, fine, we got it to work. Then
Good
next
start.
year, that's right. So we got it 1 a month. All right, that's good. So it's amazing how fast this business works. And then 12 went to 20. And then last year it went to 42. 2 years ago it went to 42. And then last year we were at 54. And so we're getting there, right? And so now we're going to pass 60 something this year. But it was a matter of making it work. And I think, for your listeners that are trying to get in this business or want to get into this business, there's a bunch of things that I think that would give new agents a competitive advantage over other agents in their market. There's a couple things. Do you want me to go through maybe a couple things? Or
yeah, that would be great. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think one of the biggest things, and I've sort of alluded to it already, is that a unique selling proposition is key. So unique selling proposition is a marketing term, USP, that is what makes you different in the market. So in a market where there are 700 agents, you have to think about something that you can deliver, that when you're meeting with a potential client, they may say, oh, geez, I like you over this other person because you offered this, or you told me something that somebody else didn't, or some sort of value that makes you different. And so, for example, from our perspective, when I first got into this, what I noticed in our market was, I'm sure in your markets they have these too, where every month they produce stats, and it's like a 1-page thing that says the average price has increased 3% over last year. Number of houses increased this over this. So from my perspective, I felt that it was too basic. There has to be more that I can do with this information than just provide one line. So I took all the data that our real estate board had, and I sort of broke it down by neighborhood. So now we have not only our city stats, but now I've got all of our neighborhood stats. And then I can talk to people about, okay, your neighborhood is doing way better than this neighborhood, or your neighborhood has a lot more houses that sell in the average year, or your neighborhood is actually declining in price. And it gives a little more depth to it. So when I meet with someone and I say, hey guys, your neighborhood is a lot more valuable than whatever other neighborhood, they'll say, oh, geez, I didn't know that. I just met with somebody else and I had no idea, they didn't give me this information, or something basic like that. It doesn't have to be genius or some humongous thing that is revolutionary, but it's something that makes you different. And what we find in our market is that there's a lot of agents that will say, well, I provide greater service. And, like greater service doesn't really, it's too generic to mean anything. But it's providing some sort of value to your clients. Maybe as part of what you do, you offer to clean your clients' houses before they go onto market, or you offer to split the cost of staging. In our market, we pay the cost of staging. It's a value, it's a service we offer. But it doesn't have to be that way when you're starting out. It could be, I offer to clean my clients' houses before they list. I offer to help with the staging costs prior to listing. I offer to get you a dumpster or a bin out front of your house if you have to clean it out prior to, like any of those sorts of things that add value. We had one recently, and we don't even think about it because we talk about this every time, but we offered to clean somebody's house prior to putting it on the market. And that was the difference of getting the listing. Wow. It's a $1 million house. And it was just offering that as part of what we do that put us at a competitive advantage versus someone else who just doesn't do it.
Right.
And the cost of cleaning a couple cleaners is a couple $100, I'd say.
Yeah.
And that's really the difference in this case. But it was
what's fun is, like, to you, cleaning it just seems like, yeah, we'll get somebody to clean it. But for that homeowner that has other things going on that isn't focused on real estate, that does seem like a daunting task.
For sure.
Yeah. And it's incredible, to see that there are agents out there who just hope that, they get a license and just hope that people will come to them. And really, you have to get out there and you have to be unique. You have to have some sort of compelling reason for people to want to work with you. And I think that's really, really important. And like I said, it doesn't have to be some revolutionary advantage. It just has to be something that makes you different. Take a look at what other agents are doing in your market and think about what else you could do. There has to be basic things that would make you just a little bit different. Because in our market, 83%, I had to pull this recently, 83% of the agents in our market sell 3 houses or less a year.
Wow.
So the majority of business is done in the top agents. So agents, take a look at what the big guys in your market are doing and see if you can emulate that, or see if there's something that you can do that pick up that maybe they're doing that would help you with a sale or two here or there.
Yeah. And it's worth taking the time to write out, maybe look within yourself. What can I do? What are 10 things I can offer? Because not every deal is the same. Some people, clients that I've worked with, some people want their house cleaned. Other people want it staged. Other people need to get out quick. And I'll offer, okay, I'll give you a letter of intent along with the listing agreement. So if this house doesn't sell in 45 days, we agree upon a price, I will buy it. That way you can get out quick, or someone else on the market will take it.
Yeah,
even
something like that. That's right.
I just sent in an offer last night at midnight on a house because he had put in an offer on a new house, needs his current house to close before the 30th so he can sign on his new one. Right. And I was like, great, I'll buy it at this price or I'll list it. And he's like, oh, we already have a listing agent. And I was like, okay, well, my price doesn't change. There's my price. I'll close in 3 weeks. And now they're pulling the listing down. So there's all different things you can offer to get people into the situation that you want to be in.
Yeah. And that's an interesting one because that's typically not something we see much of here, but there are the odd agents that say, I'll sell your house at your price. There's probably an asterisk at the end of it. As long as you're reasonable, if it doesn't sell within X amount of days. And so for some people, that is a unique selling proposition for sure. It does happen. And actually, that's probably a good segue into marketing, because our unique selling proposition. So what happened a couple of years ago was we got really busy, and my wife, our youngest, we have 3 children, and the youngest one just went into elementary school. And so Beth wanted to get back into the workforce, and she had pharmaceutical sales jobs before she stayed home with our kids. And so she wanted to get back into that sort of industry. And
that's a tough industry from what I've heard.
It's a tough industry. She was actually working in a dental division when she left, and met with dentists and found it to be just grueling. so what happened in the end is that she thought, okay, well, I'm gonna get back into sales and Ryan needs a bit of help. Why don't we just join up? And so we came together and we're sort of a real estate couple in our market. And what we decided was going to be our best approach from a unique selling proposition was, one, we're a couple, which in its own right has been hugely advantageous for us, just because in a relationship with, let's say, a husband and wife, or two people in a relationship, or clients, one of them can oftentimes relate to me, and one of them can often relate to my wife in one way or another, right? So it's like we've got two different subsets of personalities that we're covering, and it's been advantageous from that perspective. But
good,
yeah. But we our unique selling proposition was that we wanted to be a market authority. And this is something from Nestle that I learned, who was always usually number one in their categories, but we wanted to figure out how we could be the market authority. So we realized there was a gap in the market of no one really providing any greater detail than those basic market stats once a month. So we partnered up with the local newspaper here and started producing articles for them on a monthly basis, just breaking down the stats in the market, but more of a story. It was a 600 to 700 word story on how the real estate market is doing, how neighborhoods are doing, and people instantly loved it. And it became this thing that we started doing. We started doing it in 2018, and it's been going now for 4 years. And we've just converted from a 700 word article to a video that's 2 minutes long, 3 minutes long. Yeah. And the market really loves it. And then we took that and went to our local radio station and started doing some ads promoting the fact that we're doing these articles. And so we took it all together, and really the easiest way to fake it till you make it is go on like media like the radio, where it's like people automatically give you some sort of market authority, whether you deserve it or not, just because you're on the radio.
Right.
And in our local market, radio is pretty cheap. So we went on and did that, and you would be surprised at how fast people react to that stuff. And from the average agent, it might not be achievable early on, because it is, you do have to have a marketing budget for it.
Yeah.
But it is something when you can, if you can do that sort of thing, get out early with that sort of coverage, it really can make a difference.
Yeah. And for those people that are just starting that may not have the budget for that, there are free vehicles you can use, Instagram, Facebook, to put those out until you get the budget to go bigger.
That's right.
There's been a lot of deals that I find on Facebook that are on Instagram that you can put out marketing.
That's right. And that is it's a huge thing. We do it with the local media because it comes out as news. But yeah, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok has become big for realtors, obviously. There's all those different things you can do that provide some sort of value. You can also provide, in our case, market authority through Instagram by doing a reel of some sort. So there's lots of opportunity, for those people who want to get out there. You can also, one of the things that we see as a huge opportunity, which is very, very low cost for realtors, is simply having your own website and having SEO and having some sort of web presence. Mm-hmm. It has been a huge source of our business over the years by having a website that we post regular blogs on, that Google picks up on the keywords. And suddenly if someone searches realtors in whatever market you're in, you show up at the top. And it's free. It stays there as long as there's no one better than you. And it can be years. If we search our local market, we come up right at the very top. There's a map and we're there. And then right below that, we're there. And that has been a massive source of business over the past couple of years for us, not so much now, but in the past couple of years, from people in the big city moving to smaller suburban towns. And they don't have a realtor. Toronto people don't have a realtor in my city. So they Google, and that's where they find us. And it's been a huge advantage.
Yeah. Utilize the free services when you have them. It's so nice. In the forums that are out there, in the groups, I'm a part of maybe 50 Wisconsin real estate based groups all over. All for free.
All for free. And there's one, it's a good point. There's another one in my town. I'm sure most cities have them. It's just like a local group where people go and just post anything. Hey, does somebody recommend a hairdresser? Does somebody have a connection for a mechanic, this or that? And the amount of business that we've ended up getting over those groups. So does someone know a real estate agent, and they'd recommend us? And then 6 months down the road, somebody would just go into that group and search, instead of making a new post, just search and find the results from 6 months ago and find us in there. And then they'd call us. And it's amazing that was totally free. In fact, I didn't even do anything. Someone else just recommended me. So like those sorts of things are all free. but it's putting yourself out there and not relying on people to just call you once you're a real estate agent. You have to get out there.
Yeah. And I think once, and this is something that I found from my sales, because I have a sales background. I worked for facility services, like it wasn't Cintas, but a Cintas based group.
Yep.
Selling toilet paper, towels, floor mats, that kind of thing. I sold fundraising, so like a gamut of different products.
Yep.
But when you can align, and that was, I think it's so cool that you come from that marketing advertising world. And I think every sales group, if you work within a company, should sit with the marketing group. Because if you can get your sales pitch to align with what the company is saying and what they're striving for, it makes it so much easier. And if you can internalize it and jump on board with their I'll call it their cause or your unique selling proposition, your sales pitches come out so much easier. When you take it as your own business, don't forget that you still have a marketing department. You still you are the marketing department. You are the advertising, but you need that set up because you need something to sell.
Exactly right. And it's finding how you line up with that. And so, for example, that's a really good point. So our brokerage is a local small, it's like an independent in our city, and their whole strategy is support local and or fiercely local. And so around that, it allowed us to play on that angle of supporting local and doing local things and supporting local businesses. And then the legs that has, I mean, you could just go on forever. There's so many different opportunities that you can do with that.
I mean, you're pretty much working in your local market. So you work local, you know the market, you'd be the expert in that market. So
and then when you start doing, I've got, just give me 1 second, we'll grab something.
Yeah, no problem.
Hold on a second. So
I'm glad he moved because I wanted to see that big header behind you.
I know.
I love that big header.
Back here?
Yeah.
That's so obviously this is the exterior of we have an addition. I'm sitting in a kitchen addition, and this is the original exterior. It was a window, and we made it into a doorway.
I like that.
Cool. I love it.
I was hoping that was structural.
Yeah, pardon me. The header is the original from the windows.
That's awesome.
And then the wood is called gumwood. It's the original rest of the house has gumwood, so we found some more gumwood to put there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, thanks. So supporting local. So this is a cool one. I don't know if you guys like this or drink beer, but we have a brewery in our city that approached us to create a beer with them. And talking about supporting local, it's called Royal City Brewery. And so they approached us in January and said, hey, look, we know you guys do a lot of local stuff. We are making a restaurant and we want to do something to bring people into the restaurant. Will you help us if we partner from a marketing perspective to support local? And so we were like, of course. Yeah, it sounds amazing. Yeah. So we created a beer that's it's coming out in the next couple of weeks, but it's called Beth and Ryan's Local. It's probably backwards on your screen, but Beth and Ryan's Local. And it's a light drinking ale that we've been giving out to clients. Anybody who will talk to us, the restaurants have picked up on it. They've started serving it on tap. And so,
you have your own beer now.
Yeah. And so that was and they called us, which I thought was the most amazing thing, because they thought from a marketing perspective, they must have thought that we were good local marketers. And of course, I mean, that's really amazing. And we're really thankful for that. But yeah, and so that is something that sort of, when you get to the point of talking about legs and the way to expand on things, like it's endless. You can create your own beer if you get to the point where you do some neat marketing things. So
something kind of going along with that, we are getting siding put on our house, and the siding installer came to us and gave me a golf ball with their company logo on it, and gets $500 off or whatever, so on and so forth. And he said, you can hit this ball in a fairway, you can lose the ball. If somebody else finds it, they can bring it to us too, and we'll still honor it. I said, that is really cool.
That's great. Yeah. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So it's just, you can market in so many different ways.
You can do anything. Yeah. You can do anything. That's a really neat one.
You just got to be creative and be confident. And it doesn't need to be original. Like the whole philosophy that I brought up before about if your house doesn't sell in X amount of days, I'll buy it. That's not an original idea. There was a guy that put a course out talking about his philosophy and his checklist. And these are the the minimums that you need to meet for this offer to be valid.
Yeah.
I just recreated what he'd put out. It's not a whole new philosophy,
Right.
but it works in
Right.
every market.
Right. And it's funny you say that, because in our market that I'm in of 140,000 people, there isn't somebody who does it. Probably because they don't have the confidence that, they're going to be stuck buying an $800,000 house.
Yeah, I was going to put
right?
the caveat in, like the houses that I'm buying are like 3, 4 and below. You're 5 and up. So
Yeah.
a little bit different there.
Which it's funny because there was an article that came out recently that talked about the average price of a house here, and they compared it to, like, they took small town Ontario, which a town you would never, in fact, I live in Ontario and I probably never heard of the town. And it would be small town Ontario, the same priced house you could buy in LA.
Yeah.
And they were the same price.
Yeah.
And it was like, would you rather live in LA or the small town Ontario for the same price? And
Right.
that's how crazy our market has become. And it just, on many levels, it doesn't make sense, but we do have a major problem with supply and demand here, and immigration, especially around Toronto, our biggest city, continues to increase. So.
And
From what I've heard, everybody's moving condos in Toronto.
Yeah, they're sprouting up everywhere. In fact, our town we're about 45 minutes outside of Toronto, and our town has started to develop. And 10 years ago, I don't think we had any condo developments. Now we've got about 10 or 15. So they're sprouting up everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's interesting for sure. And I don't know the market here, how sustainable it is. We are tied to the US in many ways. So what happens in yours happens in ours, but we are starting to see a correction for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say is your main, I would say, I'll put it in the terms that you were using. What unique selling proposition did you take from corporate America as you were building your brand? And you're like, all right, this is where we're going to sit, and this is how we're going to do it. When you and your wife, or was it just you solo?
It was me initially. Yeah. Beth joined me about a year later. Yeah.
Okay. So when you were starting your company, what angle did you take? How did you think about that? What went through your brain as you were processing where you wanted to go?
Yeah. So from my perspective, I mean, I really didn't have I couldn't lose. I had to make it.
Yeah. As you said, 3 kids.
And a wife at home. I didn't have a choice. So I took my bonus and I thought, okay, I'm going to be the market authority. I'm going to come out here with a marketing perspective and a sales perspective, working for some massive brands, and do what I wasn't able to do in the corporate world, which is just be creative, come out with some ideas that I don't have red tape because it's just me. I'm just going to do these things and see what happens. So I started producing videos talking about, my strength was always in data. So I was able to take AC Nielsen information from, raw amounts of data and turn it into some stories and interesting information for people. So my unique selling proposition out of the gate was taking boring information and making it a little more relevant to people, and then telling them about it. And so I took my bonus, I went on the radio, I went in the newspaper, I made videos, I posted blogs all about the market and all these different angles you could take, different neighborhoods, cost per square foot, what's better, a condo or a house? So it's better, a detached house or a semi, all of these different things, and just made it more relevant.
Yeah.
And it was all free. Like I said, all the information was available on our local real estate board data portal. I mean, all I did was just get it and sort it. And that was enough because there was nobody else. And in fact, 4 years later, there's still nobody else who looks at information in that way, or maybe wants to take the time to look at information in that way. But we have so many people that have called us to say, how's my neighborhood doing versus another neighborhood, or like, all of these different things. And people over time begin to trust that because I'm not selling them on anything.
Right.
All I'm doing is giving information. I'm providing content. I'm providing value.
And other agents are doing that too, or they hopefully should be. They're just not marketing like you are. Because if a client comes to an agent and says, hey, I want to sell my house, how's my neighborhood doing? The first thing they're going to do is run comps.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't run as far back as you do, but you're doing it proactively. You're going in and saying, I'm going to sell a house in this market. I'm going to sell a house in that market. So I might as well pull the data now, stay on top of it, send out the info. So then when that client comes to me, I don't need to recreate the wheel. I just did that on my last post. Here's the info.
Yeah. And we're finding with a younger demographic that those people will watch those videos we've made or read those articles we've made, and they've made a decision that they're going to work with us before they even call us.
Yeah.
So it's like, I've done my research online of 5 different agents. You guys clearly do more than anybody else I've seen out there. Every time I search your local real estate market, all I see is like your articles or whatever it is you've done. Of course, I'm going to work with you. And so the business that we've got, especially from the larger markets coming into our market, is they've done their research, they've made their decision, and then they call us. Hey, Ryan, I've done all my homework on your market, Guelph. I am buying a house there. You obviously know the market. Can you help us? Do you have time to help us? It's like, oh my God. Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah.
But like, we don't rely on lead gen in any way, because we have this strategy of people trusting us and coming to us. And we spend zero money on any sort of lead gen programs.
That's impressive.
I guess. Thank you.
I mean, it's good because everybody, you got to put money somewhere to get leads. But if your organic marketing is bringing you leads, then that's great.
And it's nothing like I said, it's nothing revolutionary. It's not like I'm doing some things that no one else can do. These things are available to most agents. It's thinking about how you can be different. And in our market, we were just able to carve out this niche of providing information, providing content. And it takes time, but people begin to trust you. And as a result, it's just turned into sales. And it's nice. It's nice to have that happen.
Great.
Yeah. And what have you added on since then from that beginning? We're just going to analyze the stats in a smaller, more focused market. Have you added more things on top of that other than your own beer line to get your brand out and to get you guys?
Well, we've hired another guy on our team, Jesse. He was a client of ours that wanted to get into real estate, and we brought him on, and he's a sort of a buyer's agent now. And so we've sort of refined our business a little bit in that we've taken on more of we represent listings or sellers, where Jesse represents our buyers, because we had such an influx of buyers coming from out of town. But now with the market softening, we've sort of there's less of those out of town buyers coming. But from a marketing perspective, it's still sort of the same thing. It's from our perspective, it's more about just consistent content. Yeah. And like Gary V would say, produce like 10 things a day that go out on all these different social media platforms. And we don't do that, but we provide monthly videos for our local city from the news perspective. And then we do weekly blogs that get sent out. Once a month, we send a newsletter through MailChimp to our database of about 1,000 people. And we just continue to do the same things over and over again so that people begin to expect things from us. Every month, they're going to get a news article about the market from us through the news. They're going to get a newsletter from us, and that sort of thing. So consistency is key, really. Yeah.
And you see that all across, I mean, where you came from, corporate America. You go to McDonald's, you know what you're going to get. It doesn't matter what state you're in, what country you're in. Well, maybe not country, because I think countries change their menu a little bit. But
that's right.
In terms of Canada, I'm sure the menu is the same.
It's the same. It's the same.
The jingle's the same, the slogan's the same, the commercials are the same.
Right.
They're pretty consistent, you'd say.
That's pretty consistent. Yeah. And you have to do that. It sounds boring. You do get the urge sometimes to mix things up, and every once in a while you should, but not that frequently. We for our existing clients, we drop off in the springtime, we drop off flowers. We get bouquets made from a local place. We're supporting local. We get bouquets made up and we give them to our clients, put them on the doorstep and say, happy spring. We drop off. Nice touch. And we've been dropping off 6 packs of beer lately to our clients, and that's gone over really well. We drop off a bottle of wine or something at Christmas time for them. We just stay in touch. So they'll probably, our existing client base hears from us 3 or 4 times a year. It's basic stuff, but it does make a big difference.
Yeah. Then it locks in the repeat customer for the next time they buy and sell.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you been tracking on your client base that comes back for their second, third purchase?
Yeah, we track it. I'm a data geek, so I track it pretty closely.
I figured you'd track it.
Yeah. It's funny because we haven't lost the client yet. It's going to happen. We will have clients who meet neighbors that are realtors or whoever, and we'll lose them. But existing clients, we have started to get through that cycle of they've lived in a house for 3 to 5 years and they're now selling. And we have a number of repeat clients, and obviously you need to reward them and thank them, and make it known that they're appreciated for doing that. And so we do have a lot of that business. It's now about 30% of our business is now repeat and referral. 30% is from new clients that we already knew. And then the other 30%, they're almost split three ways exactly. The other 30% is cold calls, people who come out of the blue and say, hey, can you help us buy a house?
Yeah, but it's a lot easier to wake up and get into business if you know 30% of your new clients, or 30% of your clients are just brand new. The rest of it is all going to be repeat referral work I've done in the past.
Yeah. And there is work involved. I mean, you do have to make sure that you planned out, okay, I got to drop off flowers to these 50 people, or, oh, I got to do this and make sure all these things happen. But I mean, it's not that hard to do. It's just putting in the effort.
Yeah. Yep. The effort and the consistency is key on that one.
Yep.
And it's hard to think for new people getting into it to think that far ahead, because they're so thick in the weeds of like, okay, where do I start?
Yep.
I can't think about 5 years down the road. I just got to think about starting.
Yep.
But I mean, that they're on the right path. Think about starting, but start correctly. Do it the correct way.
Yeah.
It'll carry you into that fifth, sixth.
Exactly right. Yep.
Year.
And be consistent, and think about, like, when you're starting out and you're new, I mean, I don't necessarily, in our market, we don't door knock, especially with COVID. That doesn't happen as much anymore, but getting out there, dropping off even postcards at houses and talk to people that are watering their lawns, and everybody wants to talk about real estate, just making those connections. And Jesse on our team, the new guy, one of the things we talked to him about is thinking about their day-to-day connections. I go to my local coffee shop sometimes, and those people, I know them because they see me all the time and I see them all the time, but they don't really know what I do. And so if at one point I can say, buy a loaf of bread and say, that's a bad example, buy a loaf of bread and bring it to a client or something, and bring up the fact that I'm a realtor, now they know. I'm not trying to sell them on anything. I'm just telling them. Yeah. And then I suspect, given the Canadian real estate market, that the next time I'm in there, they're going to be like, oh, how's the market? I hear it's pretty crazy these days, when they make small talk. And then next thing you know, somebody new knows that you're in the business. And if you think about your day-to-day connections, you probably have 5 or so people like that. And if you can just reach 1 or 2 of them a day, your mechanic, your hairdresser, your bakery, your coffee shop, like, there's so many. And those people, if they like you, will tell their friends. Yeah. So, and I think, at least for me, the one thing in my sales role, and I can't remember what company I was at when I was told this, but they said no one wants to be sold. Yeah, right. That's right. And that, for some reason, just like is burned in my brain. Yeah. That, like, don't sell anybody. I'll talk real estate all day. I'll give my tips, my advice on it, but I'll never. Well, I'm not going to give you that information unless you sign a contract. Yeah. Yeah. Because then it's like, okay, if you don't want to work with me, I don't want to work with you. At the end of the day, it's going to be a cluster anyways. Here's the information. And I found more often than not, people are like kind of taken back. Why didn't he push to get the sale? And they always call back or contact later to reconnect. And it's like, if you give them the information and let them make their own decision, but lead them in the direction that you want the conversation to be led, it's going to pay off. And it's not a high pressure. And that takes the pressure off of me or you, the listener, whoever, to not like overthink the conversation. When you're in the coffee shop buying your cup of coffee, you can talk about the building next door that's being sold. Like, oh, have you heard what's going in there? And then you start the conversation on real estate. You drop a hint. You don't know what's going on in their life. Maybe they're selling. You don't know. Yep. You don't know. And the amount of people that we've had that have come to us and said, we chose to work with you because we felt like you weren't selling us. We felt like we weren't being sold to. We felt like we were getting honest answers from you. And it's amazing. It's amazing how times have changed, because 25 years ago, it was about selling, and it was about getting an email address to plug into your database. You could send them listings and call them up and getting their phone numbers. And it's not like that anymore. I mean, people are being sold to all the time. Like you said, they don't want to be sold to anymore. They just want information. If you give it to them, they're thankful and they'll call you. Mm-hmm. I know. And that's the coolest part. And that took the pressure off of me so much, just because I didn't feel like I needed to do that. Yeah.
And to know that there's enough people out there that if I have a conversation with real estate, I drop some hints, I give them some tips, and I walk away, there's going to be the next buyer. There's going to be the next seller. It may not be the person I talked to. It may be the original person that I just gave a hint to, who goes back and tells their friend, and then they call me.
Yep. Exactly right.
The low pressure is kind of where my niche is, for sure.
Yeah. And there's some people that can't wrap their head around it, but if you have the confidence to do it and you're providing relevant information to people, it works. It's weird to say, but it works.
It does.
Yeah.
So from your business model, where you're at with analytics and in the marketing background, what is up next for you and your wife in your business plan? Do you have sales goals that you want to hit? Do you have a new marketing thing rolling out? Like, where are you guys going in the next 2 to 5 years?
Yeah, well, I think it's a fine balance between being busy and being too busy. I mean, we're my wife and I, we're 2 people, and we've just hired a 3rd person. And so we may end up hiring another agent here or there, but I mean, we're early on in our business. Our goal last year was to hit 30 million in sales. We hit 40. And our goal this year is to hit 50, and we're going to be at 30 by the half-year mark. So
Wow.
we're on track again.
Awesome.
So it's trying to figure out how we grow our business strategically. What we're not interested in doing is getting caught up in low commission competition.
Busy work.
Yeah, I mean, we find situations where we get called by people to say, well, I'm calling you because another agent said they do it for, X low commission. Do you want to compete for this? And the answer is no, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And, that's not what we do. We'll stage your house for you. We'll market it better than anybody else will. We'll get you more than what you'd be saving in the commission on the sale price, because we can negotiate better. So from our perspective, it's being more strategic in the business we take. I'm okay. Next year it may be, how can we improve our bottom line? We don't necessarily need to improve our top line by taking less commission. Improving our top line just to get the sale, we cut our commission. We're not interested in doing that. So from our perspective, it's sort of refining the business. I would be happy with 10% growth year over year, just continually. Because for us, it's a comfortable position. We're doing well in our business, and we can still handle each transaction as Beth and Ryan, who we're known as in our market. Once you get to 5 or 6 other people, it's not Beth and Ryan you're dealing with anymore. It's Jesse and Johnny. And that's not really what the model is that we're looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And what's super cool is that you're gaining market share, you're increasing your income, but you're not expanding your market.
That's right. That's right.
And that's the impressive part. And that's just proof of how much business there is out there. And you don't need to drive all across Canada to hit those numbers. You can focus in on the market.
It's very true. And it's something we struggle with early on. Is it's tempting to take things that are, half an hour away, or somebody buys a house with you in this town, and then they want to sell their house an hour away. Well, I'm going to refer that out now because I'm too busy with what I have locally, and I don't even know that market. Why would I be trying to sell a house there?
Yeah.
And so it allows you to pick and choose, once you get a little more established, to pick and choose what you want and what you don't want. And, from a marketing perspective, being good in your local market and being strong there is a key selling feature.
No, but I think that's a common misconception when people get into real estate is, all right, like in your instance, we've got 3 kids at home, wife at home with the kids. We've got to hit sales numbers. Let's open up our market and let's take everything we can. And it's kind of like the shotgun spray. There's a lot of misses in that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of misses in that. And you have to have a niche, you have to have a target market, although there will be things that come out of that market, out of that niche a little bit. You may have the odd thing that's outside of it, but you try to focus on what it is you're good at and be a little more strategic. And it's tough early on. I mean, I remember those days where it's like, I really wanted to do this, but I needed to get paid as well. So it's like you take things you would normally take just in the early days just to get going. But now that we've got a little more of an established business, we are able to be a little bit pickier.
Yeah. And I remember when I started, I wrote down like all the things I wanted to get into. And I don't know if you ever listen to Bigger Pockets,
Yep.
the podcast. They have guests on that are in all different facets of real estate, and all of them were intriguing and all of them were interesting, but none of them were the focus that I wanted to get into. So, I mean, I'm sure I have that sheet of paper that when I first started, I wrote down like every little thing I wanted to get into, every nuance of real estate.
Right.
I've maybe gone through like 2 out of the 20 already. And we've been doing this for years.
Right.
If we get big enough, those are things in the future, like, yeah, they'd be good to get to, but we're so focused on kind of what we want to get into in the market we want to get into, that those are future plans that if we get big enough and delegate enough to have people in place to take on those things, great. But again, it's not things I'm hitting the gas pedal to get to. Stay focused, stay consistent, like you were saying before, and it's proving that it works.
It does.
And you're doing it better than we are. We don't do stats like that. Wish we could. That would be great.
Yeah, I mean, it is for us. It's free, and I have sort of a knack for that sort of thing. But it's it's made a difference in our market. It was our unique selling proposition. It's not everybody's, but it was ours.
Right. And there are some people that maybe you're not a numbers person and you're more of a person. Like you relate to people better.
Yeah, like my wife would never. She has no interest in data. She couldn't even find the information. But that's not her. That's not her. She can work a room in minutes. She's amazing. Everybody loves her. But she has a different skill set that I have. We're totally different. And that's from our business, that it works out well. But yeah, numbers don't work for everybody.
And for the newbies that are getting out there, you just have to be confident in your strength. If you are the people person, be the people person. Go do that well.
That's right. Yeah. Figure out what your strengths are, write them down, and figure out what it is that you can do that would make you stand out to your client base. And you'd be surprised, like, you have to be honest, and you probably have more skills. The average person has more skills or things that they're good at than they would give themselves credit for.
Yeah. I mean, you technically will be the expert in that field. And once you get one deal under your belt, you've now bought or sold more homes than most people.
Yeah,
you've bought and sold more homes than your clients. Yeah. You have more of a background. You've studied more than your clients. And sometimes, like when you start out, you feel kind of fake. Like I haven't done anything yet. I don't know.
Right.
But you do know. You know more than the rest of the people. Yeah. Don't lose that side. Like you always have to your continuing education. You've always got to keep doing it. Always keep up on the trends in the market. Those things are always going to be there. Yeah. But don't forget, like you took the course, you've done a deal or two. You've got to start getting confident in that. And then you take your confidence that you are a real estate agent, you're in that market. Here is my I'm confident myself in these things. Try to combine those. And once they combine, you sit in the position where you're at, where you're getting the local deals. You're a local, I'm going to call you a brewer from now on, but you've got your own beer. Like those things will come when you get the confidence that the skills you have.
Yeah, it's true. It is true.
So I'm going to leave it with one last thing for anybody thinking about real estate or getting into it. What's the one bit of advice from your corporate sales background, your corporate market background, for them just to, hey, if you want to start, and maybe you can't give up your job right now, maybe that's not something they could do. What are some things they can start on now that's going to benefit them when they do make the leap?
Well, I think from many people's perspective, it's going to be, how can you market yourself? So think about ways, whether they're paid or whether they're free, that you can get yourself out there. Take a look at what other agents are doing in your market, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whether it's online presence, whether it's radio, newspaper, whatever. Figure out from a marketing perspective what other people are doing. Some are paid, some are free. But take a look at what's out there and what avenues you have, because that is going to be a huge, it's going to be a huge component of your business. Huge component. So yeah, probably the majority, especially when you're new.
Yeah. And when you said that, I was just thinking about something for those people that aren't in real estate. It doesn't hurt you to share other agents or other brokers' information. If you come across a post and you're following, I'm going to say Remax because they're a big box, and they put out a post about something in your market, you can reshare that on yours. And then you can go reshare something that's completely the opposite. and find what's hitting in your market.
Yep. Yeah.
If you've got no skin in the game, I put no money to it.
Yep.
It's just research to find out what hits in my market. So now when I do go in, I've already got a baseline of what works, what doesn't work, what people like to see, where I got the responses.
Yep.
And then you can take that into yours when you actually start up your real estate business.
And some of the things that people do just because other people are doing them doesn't mean they work.
Right.
I found that out early on, is that take a look at what everybody else does. And in fact, in some cases where it's overly saturated, you may want to stay away from it, just because oftentimes realtors are, maybe the big box Remax or somebody will say, well, you're just starting out, you need to do X, Y, and Z, which is what they tell every single new realtor to do. And, now every Remax agent has a bus bench ad in the city.
Right.
And it's like, they're just totally monopolized by realtors. And are they effective? I don't know. But it's like, maybe you need to find something different to do. So just because everybody else is doing something doesn't necessarily mean it works.
Yeah.
So be a little critical too, I think, when you're taking a look at what else is out there. But it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't hurt to share what other people are doing, because it gives you research, it gives you intel as to what's working, what isn't. And so. Yeah,
it's just a start.
Yep.
Getting over the fear of starting.
Yep.
So, man, that's super cool. Your whole background and how you created your business out of it. Proof that you can get into real estate wherever you're at.
Yeah. I did in my 40s. Yep.
Yeah. There's been one person that he sold toilet paper, and then he made the leap from toilet paper to real estate, and he's being successful. He took what he knew from toilet paper and went in. It's crazy.
Yep.
I mean, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. We try to keep it to an hour, but what I want to do, I want to connect later on in the year, see if you hit that. This year was 50. You're on pace for 60.
I'm on pace to hit 60, but the goal is 50.
Awesome. I want to see where you're at in those numbers. I'm sure you're going to be hitting that fairly soon, seeing as you're already over the halfway point. So congrats on that one.
Yeah, thank you very much.
But yeah, I definitely want to connect in, and we can also on the next show talk about where the market's at, because as we spoke earlier off air, interest rates are going up. Things are starting to correct a little bit.
Yep.
I'm curious to see where we're at the end of the year. If interest rates will, and I'm going to say interest rates will be high, because right now they're going up, but they're back to normal where we're at. But I want to see where they're at the end of the year.
All right. Well, let's connect later on.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You'd be a good person to talk numbers with.
Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Enjoy your weekend. Hopefully you guys have better weather than we have coming up here.
Not sure we do, but thanks again.
Awesome. Talk soon. Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Bye.
Bye.